Kirill turned the key in the lock with a familiar motion, shut the cafe door behind him, and immediately felt the icy wind lash against his face. Raising the collar of his coat, he shoved his hands into his pockets and set off for home. Usually, the walk from work was a time for him to reflect on his plans and responsibilities, but lately, his thoughts had been occupied by something else. Memories of Tatiana wouldn't let him rest, stirring a whirlwind of emotions: love, resentment, disappointment. Something in their relationship had changed over the past few months. She had become different: unexpected calls, hushed phone conversations, sudden disappearances. It all painted a troubling picture, but Kirill refused to believe the worst. Surely, the person he considered his whole world couldn't betray him. At home, the flickering light of the television greeted him in an otherwise empty room. Tatiana was nowhere to be seen. Having dinner with friends, her brief message from earlier flashed in his mind. Kirill collapsed onto the couch, exhausted, but his gaze immediately fell on her phone, forgotten on the table. He was never the type to snoop, but something felt off. His fingers hesitated above the screen. Then, a message popped up from an unknown number: "You were amazing last night. Shall we do it again?" The world seemed to freeze. First came confusion, then anger, and finally, an unbearable, hollow emptiness. His mind scrambled for an explanation, but his heart already knew the truth. With trembling fingers, he opened the conversation. Short phrases, flirtatious hints, emojis, everything was clear. Slowly, he set the phone down, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. He wasn't going to make a scene. He needed a plan. He needed proof. The next morning, he called a private investigator. Artyom, a man recommended to him by a longtime client, listened calmly and simply said, "I'll find out everything." The week dragged on painfully. Kirill continued to play the role of a devoted husband. He was affectionate, attentive, acting as if he suspected nothing. But his heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. When the phone rang on Friday and Artyom said, "Come over, I have everything," Kirill braced himself for the worst. Almost photos, videos, screenshots of messages. It had been going on for months. And not with one man, but two, one a colleague, the other a family friend. Kirill closed his eyes. The pain burned through him, but he refused to let it consume him. He knew exactly what needed to be done. That evening, he gathered his friends. Yuri, Anton, and Valentin, his closest confidants, sat in silence as they went through the evidence. The room was heavy with tension. "What now?" Anton finally asked. Kirill met their eyes. There was no hesitation left in his. "We'll make them pay. But not the way they expect. We'll do it with style." Their plan was simple: expose everything, not just for themselves, but for everyone. They found out when and where their wives were planning their next girls' night. Kirill arranged for Artyom to obtain the final pieces of evidence, and then they would make it all public. The day arrived. The restaurant buzzed with laughter and music. The women, certain they had the world in their hands, raised their glasses in a toast, oblivious to the storm about to break over them. When Kirill and his friends entered, silence fell over the room. He said nothing, he simply connected his device to a screen, and the images of their double lives began playing. Murmurs, whispers, shifting gazes. Svetlana, Natalia, Tatiana, Olga? Their faces paled with each passing second. This isn't what it looks like," Olga stammered. "Really?" Kirill's voice was cold. "Then explain it to us." But there was nothing to explain. The truth was undeniable. The men turned and walked out, leaving them to face the wreckage of their carefully crafted lies. In the days that followed, everything unraveled. Some wives tried to justify themselves, others blamed each other. But it was too late. Yuri, Anton, and Valentin decided to walk away. Kirill did the same. He took his children and moved to the house where his grandfather had once lived. In the quiet, far from betrayal, he began again. Months passed. He no longer thought of Tatiana with pain. She was simply part of a past that could never be reclaimed. One day, she came to see him, hoping to explain. But he no longer listened. He didn't hate her. He simply didn't love her anymore. "I want to fix this," she whispered. "That's impossible," he replied calmly. He watched her leave, knowing this was the final chapter of their story. She was gone, and he remained. In a home where his children laughed and the morning mist rolled over the valley. In a world where betrayal no longer existed.